PNC News First is presented by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank. Pizza Hut, we're taking pizza to where it's never been before. Taco Bell, the only place where you live Moss. Colgate, the #1 brand recommended by dentists. And IT&D.
PNC News First, broadcasting live in high definition from Tumon, Guam, on KEQI and KTGM, and on KPPI on Saipan. Here is your PNC News team.
Hafa and good evening. You're watching PNC News First. We are live from the Broadcast Center at Akanta. I'm Jolene Tovis. Thanks for tuning in. Topping our newscast tonight, a mini trial was held in court this morning as Superior Court Judge Vernon Perez presided over a motion to suppress filed in the case involving the murder of 15-year-old Tamika Nauta. The motion to suppress evidence was filed by the suspect, Brandon Michael Acosta's attorney, William Pohl, who was attempting to have any evidence related to a pair of shorts and slippers excluded from trial. With the motion filed, the burden was shifted to the government, who was tasked with providing witnesses. The government placed 2 GPD officers on the stand to testify towards the events that transpired, supporting their claim that they did everything properly and followed procedure in obtaining the material. Pohl says that he was able to cross-examine the government's witnesses and that it will be up to the court to make a determination, as it is not always black and white, taking into consideration that officers fall under the good faith exception. Both parties have 2 weeks to present what they think the evidence proves or disproves and how it relates to the Fourth Amendment. The next hearing is set for August 30th. Meanwhile, the trial is anticipated for October. News out of the Attorney General's office, who has indicated that Guam has an opioid problem, and now they are suing a big pharma company, Purdue Pharma LP, for their use of deceptive marketing practices. Here's more.
All the hard drugs bring a hard price. It's hard to get off of. And these dealers that are out there, they actually take advantage of that fact that people become slaves to their addictions and therefore a slave to the substance.
That statement was made 2 years ago when PNC sat down with a drug dealer who at the time of the interview was engaging in the consumption of opiates, and he shared this information as he inhaled the substance. But it appears that not all drug dealers are from the streets. On Tuesday, the Office of the Attorney General announced that they had filed a lawsuit against Purdue Pharma LP, the large pharmaceutical company that has engaged in deceptive practices since the 90s in the advertising of a rebranded formula of OxyContin as an abuse deterrent. Despite a lack of evidence to support the claim, they promote the drug as safe while downplaying the dangers of addiction with long-term use.
Well, we're asking for 3 types of relief. The first being injunctive relief or equitable relief. We're asking that Purdue end or stop its deceptive promotional practices of the drug OxyContin. In addition to that, we're actually asking that Purdue pay $5,000 in fines per each violation. We can't provide you with a solid number now of what that damage amount will be, but we're going to leave that up to the court to decide once that obviously gets to that stage.
The AG is also seeking punitive damages to penalize Purdue for their deceptive practices. While the complaint indicates that there were over 97,000 opioid prescriptions dispensed on Guam, the AG acknowledges the need for Guam to collect statistics moving forward. He says that there are over 1,000 prescriptions dispensed over a 3-year period, and that when taking into account the potential damage caused in the community, they are looking at the number of doses as opposed to people. Putting it into perspective, according to the 2018 National Drug Threat Assessment, in 2015, 10.7% of high school students reported taking a prescription drug such as OxyContin, Percocet, Vicodin, Adderall, Ritalin, or Xanax without a doctor's prescription.
We understand and we recognize there's an opioid problem here, but we're interested in, as an example, the number of naloxone antidotes that they're giving, doses. The government of Guam is paying for that right now, or people who are suffering from opioid overdoses are paying for it. It shouldn't be that case. It should be Purdue. If they're the ones who are responsible for this problem, they should be paying all of it or a portion of it.
Assistant Attorney General Janice Camacho says that the civil action lawsuit filed in the Superior Court of Guam is based on the Consumer Protection Statute and was done so in hopes that the suit will result in Purdue being ordered to cease and desist their deceptive marketing practices designed to mislead doctors, patients, and the public. Meanwhile, the Purdue Pharma website emphasizes that OxyContin is FDA approved and also appears to place the blame of opioid addiction on abusers, stating, quote, "To help address this problem, Purdue spent nearly a decade and hundreds of millions of dollars to reformulate OxyContin to make it more difficult to abuse by snorting or injection," end quote.
Have you caught your child lighting up a cigarette? If so, was your child pressured into doing so after watching something on TV or on the internet? Well, that is the conclusion many AGs have come to, realizing that children are impressionable and often emulate what they see on TV or streamed videos. Let's take a look.
It's cool to smoke. At least that is the message 43 attorney generals across the U.S. have banded together to snuff out in the streaming video industry, which is popular among young viewers.
After this master settlement agreement with tobacco, they realized that a lot of the reasons why young people are smoking is because they model, they see it happening in movies, they see it happening in TV, and a lot of the major movie studios have entered into agreements where they're not going to show smoking or to depict tobacco products for certain types of ratings.
Attorney General Levin Camacho says when the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement was drafted, it did not take into account streamed video content. This is where the gap lies in the protections for younger viewers, raising the question, what are we doing to make sure that streaming videos are not showing smoking in every single scene of popular streaming types of original content?
So the letter is designed to say, for those like Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, be mindful of that and the impacts you have on young people when it comes to smoking and tobacco products.
Camacho says 43 bipartisan attorney generals across the U.S. have signed on, saying in unison, quote, "You should not be showing any tobacco products for original content rated PG-13 and below," end quote. They are urging the streaming industry to take proactive steps to protect the lives of young viewers and limit tobacco use in their video content. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the number of middle and high school students using e-cigarettes rose from 2.1 million in 2017 to 3.6 million in 2018. Camacho says that Guam has one of the highest youth smoking rates in the country, as the Global Youth Tobacco Survey indicated that 1 out of every 5 students surveyed aged 13 to 15 years old has reported using tobacco products. Meanwhile, a 2018 study found that streamed videos that are most popular with young viewers feature higher rates of tobacco content than programs shown on traditional television. There is also the 2019 report by the Truth Initiative, which showed that the danger has only grown in the past year.
Taking a look at the legislature after spending much of the day going back and forth with Congressman Michael Nicholas, the legislature has suspended discussion on the local war claims bill. Senator Regine Bisco-Lee says they will respect the congressman's request and rise out of the committee of the whole. PNC's Josh Taikenko takes a look.
With continued tension in the air, Guam's legislative and executive branches spoke with Congressman Michael Nicholas over the phone today during Committee of the Whole on Bill 181, or the Local War Claims Measure. Speaker Tina Muñoz-Barnes confronted Nicholas over his concerns the local legislation would jeopardize his efforts in Congress to pass H.R. 1365 to pay out adjudicated war claims to World War II survivors.
I definitely believe that that's never been the intent. I have in front of me a proof of 2 Trump administration cabinet officials that say that they are on board with our local initiative.
However, Nicholas made it very clear on how he felt.
If we add new variables at this time, it changes the tenor of how everyone is perceiving things.
Senator Tello Taitagui also chimed in, saying they have emails, which PNC was able to obtain, from Assistant Secretary of Insular and International Affairs Doug Domenech and Chief Counsel Paul Wolftich from the U.S. Department of the Treasury, saying they are still working with Guam to make war claims happen. She also questioned if San Nicolas had a letter saying Guam's plan won't work.
Any kind of letter at all that you submitted to Treasury, you submitted to the legislature, you submitted to Department of Interior about Bill 181, yes or no?
Senator, my only reference to a letter was the letters from Treasury and Interior supporting 1365. And my only statements was that there are no letters from Treasury or the Interior supporting 181.
San Nicolas stressed that if the legislature passes Bill 181, we may compromise 1365 on a federal level. Senator Regine Bisco-Lee says she is well aware of how Congress works, having spent time in the House and Senate for over 5 years.
I understand the difficulties and the challenges that you are encountering, but my question to you is, should Bill 181 pass, will you sponsor language permitting this local reimbursement?
With your experience in the Congress, I would hope that you would advise your colleagues that it is very unwise to even pose that question. Trying to change directions on an issue that has a very clear path at this point is a very, very, very bad thing to do.
Putting everything into perspective, Senator Therese Terlahi expressed her support for the congressman, but asked him how long do we have to wait for the Senate?
We want to support you, but how long would you suggest that we, if we can pay the Monomco some of these claims, like in advance, how long would you suggest that we hold off on that so that we do not impede your efforts?
I very much intend for this to happen as quickly as possible, and the passage of Bill 181 will create a whole new variable that will undoubtedly make it take longer.
Josh Tikenko, PNC News.
Thank you, Josh, for that report. Well, stay with us. We have more news first after the break.